117120344. Before we continue to explain the review journal of translation errors, firstly, I want to introduce my partner. The first one is Ernika Sinaga and the second one is Meiretha Barus. As the first one is abstract, this article aims to determine the main types of translation error and consider the consequences of their presence in the text, where in this article were identified errors in translation of the novel based on the trilogy of Blood and Sweat and Reveiw. As the second one is introduced, we know that translation is currently one of the biggest problems in this world, because everyone has their own perception in translating the source language to the target language. This makes the linguist and the professional translator doubt the result of their translation. And as we know, to get the good translation and easy to understand is not easy. Where in translation of the text there are still many words and errors that are difficult in translation, that makes it difficult for reader to understand the purpose of the text. According to researchers, there are 4 main factors determine the lack of translator knowledge. For the first one, poor knowledge of the original language, and the second one, inadequate knowledge of the subject of the writer's thought, i.e., the translator must understand not only what the author writes, but also what he says about the subject. And the next, readings that do not pay attention to the original text. And the last, the inability to identify the strengths of the individual style of the original author, where translator must see their mistake from positive angle. Thank you, and will be continued by my friend Ernika and Meiretha.
Hello, I am Ernika Sinaga. My register number is 171203558. I will continue explanation for my friends, material and method. In translation theory, linguists have present a large number of different classifications until they choose the most appropriate classification as their scientific research. The method they used was descriptive qualitative to classify translation errors in the English version of the novel using classification of error given by Reveiw 1981. For this journal, also apply comparative analysis method of translation. It is analysis of form and content of target text compared to form and content of the source text. As research material, they choose 2 translations. The first one, a translation from Kazakh to Russian by Romauli Sormin 2010, and the second, a translation from Russian to English by Catherine Fitzpatrick 2013.
Hello friends, welcome to our video. Where in our video we will do it the videos to make a review journal, a segment from Mr. Kamis Payung, I and our group. And there are Meiretha Barus as me, and Romauli Sormin and Ernika Sinaga. Where in a segment, this is about how we are make the review from the novel. The title is The Trilogy of Blood and Sweat, Reveiw, where there are in the title I will can make a review about what the purpose and the biggest of. And then in the article introduced from me about the problem where we are always make the translation is the one problem. The problem is the first is we are poor knowledge of the original language. That is the first problem because we are only know, but we are not too much, not know too much about the language. And the second, I think is Aina DQ knowledge of the subject. We are only know about the title, but in our discussion about the translation method, and maybe is the way the translation in the for the biggest problem for we are to make the translation. This article introduced for us about the nose of the one of the leading researcher in the Russian linguistic and translation study in there from VN Commissar of the Science 2000, and then that is divided translation error into introduced 4 types. That is of course from, and then to classification the group classification of translation error. The first one I think to make usage the stylist language, and before we are change original language to be stylist language, we are must know about the norms and characteristic about the language before, and then for the violations that is important to first we are focused in the first one violation because in the transfer of functional and stylistic of genre feature of the original text, the first way and the first one thing before we are changed that is all to be the language stylist. In this article, I think make us to know about genre and the way the good to make the easy to our make the translation better.
Conclusion. Based on the comparative above about the translation of the Blood and Sweat trilogy, we can conclude that the translation in English version of the novel almost has the wrong words meaning in its translation, so many find the meaning of the text words to differ from the source language to the target language. Thank you.